Hi there.
Hello,
I'm Jennifer.
I'm Reed. Welcome.
We're here for another Faith at Home listening practice.
Yes, we're going to be reading from Psalm 78, verses 1 to 16 in the Net Bible, the New English Translation.
We have with us today our little notebook and a pen to write with, just so we can take some notes for ourselves. So over time, we can pay attention to and tell the stories of what we have heard God say to us.
So we'll begin by reading through this passage once. You can start,
All right.
I think. And we're listening for just a word or a phrase, something that sticks out to us, that sort of makes you think about it, or just surprises you, or just interests you. Whatever.
And perhaps it will be something directly from the psalm, or it might be another image or story from your own life that comes to mind, stirred up by these words. Pay attention, my people, to my instruction. Listen to the words I speak. I will sing a song that imparts wisdom. I will make insightful observations about the past. What we have heard and learned, that which our ancestors have told us, we will not hide from their descendants. We will tell the next generation about the Lord's praiseworthy acts, about God's strength and the amazing things that God has done. God established a rule in Jacob. God set up a law in Israel. God commanded our ancestors to make these deeds known to their descendants, so that the next generation, children yet to be born, might know about them. They will grow up and tell their descendants about them, and then they will place their confidence in God. They will not forget the works of God. They will obey God's commands. And then they will not be like their ancestors, who were a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that was not committed and faithful to God. The Ephraimites were armed with bows, but they retreated in the day of battle. They did not keep their covenant with God, and they refused to obey God's law. They forgot what God had done, the amazing things God had shown them. God did amazing things in the sight of their ancestors in the land of Egypt, in the region of Zoan. God divided the sea and led them across it. God made the water stand in a heap. God led them with a cloud by day and with the light of a fire all night long. God broke open rocks in the wilderness and gave them enough water to fill the depths of the sea. God caused streams to flow from the rock and made the water flow like rivers.
The thing that struck out to me was that basically the passing on, that God did these things and you don't keep it a secret. God commanded our ancestors to make God's deeds known to their descendants, and we're going to do the same. I think that's, as parents, that's one of the things we do naturally. I think whether in this case it's talking about God's work, but the family lore. This is a tribal people, and you pass on the things that you've learned and what you know. And I just found that interesting. That here it's saying that very thing that we're all very familiar with. This idea of passing on that what you know, or what God has done, those sorts of things. You don't keep it a secret. It's not anything to be hidden. Those are the facts. So you just tell your kids about them, and then they'll tell their kids about them. I have stories from my parents that they told me about their grandparents. So I understand this. This resonates with me.
It's from that part of the psalm too that what jumps out to me is right there. But that sense that not only do we tell our children, so there are things that we choose to tell our children, things that we want to pass on, but there are also all sorts of other things that we pass on without maybe intending to. parts of the story that get left out or included. And so what jumps out to me is that then they pass that on to their kids. So for me, what really caught my attention was that not just this coming generation, the ones who we have profound influence over right now, but the ones who come after that have influence by what we've experienced, what we choose to tell. That really catches my attention today. I wonder what you notice as you listen along. Maybe it was the word Zoan.
Yeah.
Or zone. Let's listen again.
I'll read it this time, and this time we're going to listen for an invitation. God's going to call you to something, to think about or to move you in a direction. It's an invitation. Psalm 78. Pay attention, my people, to my instruction. Listen to the words I speak. I'll sing a song that imparts wisdom. I'll make insightful observations about the past. What we've heard and learned, that which our ancestors have told us. We will not hide from their descendants. We will tell the next generation about the Lord's praiseworthy acts, about God's strength and the amazing things God has done. God established a rule in Jacob. God set up a law in Israel. God commanded our ancestors to make God's deeds known to their descendants, so that the next generation, children yet to be born, might know about them. They will grow up and tell their descendants about them. Then they will place their confidence in God. They will not forget the works of God, and they will obey God's commands. Then they will not be like their ancestors, who were a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that was not committed and faithful to God. The Ephraimites were armed with bows, but they retreated in the day of battle. They did not keep their covenant with God, and they refused to obey God's law. They forgot what God had done, the amazing things God had shown them. God did amazing things in the sight of their ancestors, in the land of Egypt, in the region of Zoan. God divided the sea and led them across it. God made the water stand in a heap, and led them with a cloud by day and with the light of a fire all night long. God broke open rocks in the wilderness and gave them enough water to fill the depths of the sea. God caused streams to flow from the rock and made the water flow like rivers.
So the words amazing things jumps out as part of the invitation to me today. I love the way the Divine Family brings things together in our lives. So Reed and I are in the middle of a writing class right now where often our instructor talks about memoir and telling our stories, writing them down with details and not sort of censoring the parts that feel uncomfortable. And I think along with that comes the contrast to the amazing things that God has done. And so that's the invitation for me, is to keep working on what we've been doing, what we've been invited to do by our instructor, is to keep telling those stories of what's true in my life, of what I have felt and seen and experienced, both of the hard parts, but also of the amazing things that God has done.
I felt an invitation. I'm a dad with kids who still call me dad or daddy even sometimes. So that first line, pay attention, my people, my children, to my instruction. Listen to the words I speak. It's an invitation to teach, I guess, or don't just let it happen. Don't say, oh, well, the pastor or the Sunday school will teach them all that stuff, or whatever. I don't know. Not that I've done that, but I tell them plenty. But just ask them. But just to remember that for me, I should not neglect that. I should make sure I don't forget to tell them the stories of my faith, of course, and the family. And the history. It's not just me telling my children. It's my parents and my grandparents, my great-grandparents. It goes in a lineage. And maybe that's not even my physical biological parents, but my spiritual parents and grandparents. And I don't even know who my spiritual great-great-grandparents are. I'm not sure. But things will come down, and I know things. I go, oh yeah, this is what I know to be true. And I learned this from my dad, and he learned it from his mentor and whatever. And just to remember that those are important, that those experiences and activity from my past and the things I've learned from my ancestors, whether spiritual or biological, are important and meaningful. And don't just hope for the best, because I can tell my children about that stuff. So,
Thank you for sharing. And thank you for sharing in this experience with us today.
Being here.
Thanks for being here. And if you would, we'd love for you to help us to pay attention to your instruction too.
Yeah.
Maybe you have stories of what God is at work doing in your life, and we'd love to hear them. Thanks for being with us today.
And we'll see you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.